Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Mikey.
And I'm Tyler.
And we are Deep Red Pictures. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Normally we cover a lot of horror, just kind of content. But today we're actually kind of just going to talk about generalized movie news.
Yeah, sort of like hot topics that have been going on this week. So we'll kick it off with this. So with Deadpool and Wolverine dropping this upcoming weekend, it was originally projected to make up to $200 million its opening weekend, but now some outlets are reporting $250 million. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that is something that it will reach?
I absolutely think 200 million is doable. These movies tend to open like massively, so I kind of was anticipating a higher number, to be honest. So I think it'll probably, I don't think it'll hit necessarily 250, but I think
it'll hit like 210, 220.
Yeah, I think roughly. Like somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I mean, if it was something where it would make less than 200 million, it would still have like 190.
Yeah,
minimum.
And that's minimum. But when you look at like Spider-Man: No Way Home and stuff, like that movie was built up of the hype of potential cameos and nostalgia, and this movie has done nothing but borderline guarantee that we're getting all of that. So I think that this might even be a bigger opening than that. I think that there is absolutely potential for that to happen.
It's going to be $1 billion movie.
I think so.
I'd say within 2 months, $1 billion. If even that long.
If even.
Yeah. All right, up next. So speaking of Deadpool and Wolverine, director Sean Levy recently turned down the offer to direct Avengers 5 for his currently in development Star Wars film. Do you think that this was a good decision on his part? What are your thoughts?
I do not, and I have a myriad of reasons.
Star Wars movie's never going to get made.
No, it's never going to get made. They've announced, 6 new Star Wars movies in the past decade
Between
that have been
6
canceled.
and 10.
Yeah.
Or they fade into obscurity and they just don't talk about it and act like it didn't exist.
Yeah, no, we didn't promise you this. Rian Johnson wasn't supposed to get a trilogy, you idiots.
Who's Taika Waititi?
That's not even a name. That's a dish.
Bonjour. But yeah, like seriously, like I hate saying that because people always think that I'm like raining on the parade, but I'm like, until I see set photos, I don't believe a Star Wars movie is getting made.
No, I think, well, so there's the talks of like whatever the next like Daisy Ridley movie.
Yeah, the Rey Skywalker movie and then the Mandalorian and Grogu movies. So
I think those will happen. I think that now that this sequel trilogy has concluded and the dust has settled, I think that there are a lot of people who are kind of, they're not necessarily people turning around and being like, you know what, maybe I was wrong about, that trilogy. I don't think that that's the case, but I do think that there are a lot of people who are finding that there were characters to really like within that trilogy. And
I love Daisy Ridley. She needs a win.
Yeah.
She hasn't had much after Star Wars, and I think that like the time jump, it's supposed to be like 30 years or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not. There were some outlets that were reporting recently that it's actually supposed to be like an episodic movie, where it was going to be like an actual episode 10, and like kick off like a whole new thing. But there was also reports of like that's not true. But I feel like
at this point they might as well, because like the whole concept of the Skywalker saga and stuff, there was a clear linear timeline before they had started creating all of these new streaming streaming series and stuff, and now we're at a point where it's never been Star Wars. It's always just been Star Wars. There's only the one war. And so how are you necessarily dictating whose saga this is? The greatest Jedi that's ever lived is said to be Anakin, and then Luke. So we've already done that. Now every character story arc that's taking place within that story, every movie that they're going to spin off, anything is going to come back to the Skywalker saga, unless they go to the Old Republic or any of that stuff. So, I don't know, to me, just make it episode 10.
And the issue too with Mandalorian and Grogu is now you're alienating that part of the audience who hasn't watched The Mandalorian, who now has to go and watch 3 seasons to be like, okay, unless they do something that's completely like going back and they're like, hey, you don't have to worry about the show. Or like someone suggested, which I thought was a cool idea, they do the opening crawl, but it goes through like a brief of like what the show went over. like what happened.
Yeah,
I thought
that's
that would be a
yeah.
cool idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because, like, when you really break down, any series is really just a very elongated version of a very simple story. At least for Star Wars, it's always just like what Ben has to get Leia to this place to tell these people this thing, and then somehow we get 8 episodes out of that story. So.
Alright, so up next, there were all the major outlets reported that the Russo brothers had have signed back on to had signed back on to be the directors of Avengers 5 and 6, though there have been no official confirmations from either the Russo brothers or Marvel. What do you think about this? Do you think that the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con is going to drop this? Or do you think that people just need to pump the brakes and wait and see?
I mean, I'm very hopeful. I think that the Russo brothers are responsible for the best things that Marvel has done. And, like, don't get me wrong, there are issues with, like, Endgame and stuff like that, like pacing being a huge issue with that movie, but, like, overall, like, they proved with their time with Marvel that Marvel needs them, but now in the aftermath, it's been proven that they also need Marvel.
Yeah, it's very safe on both parts because it's like, if they bring in the Russo brothers, that's going to calm down the people who don't have faith in them.
Yeah,
I mean,
that,
at
like,
least most
this
of
next
them.
phase has been...
And then there's the Russo brothers who are like, it's clear they really can't make anything good unless there's somebody over them being like yes and no, like Kevin Feige has to do. I mean, although I've fallen off the Marvel train, Kevin Feige knows what to do and how to run a ship.
Yeah, and there was that period of time though, like last year he was promoted, or the year before he was promoted, and it took him. I mean, this is.
Well, he got his power. What happened was Bob Chapek stripped away his power, so he didn't have that kind of like
that
what he usually
control.
did.
Yeah.
He had to go through management, but then when Papa Igor came back, gave him back his his power. And so now it's kind of like that's why like they canceled like
The
Daredevil Born Again and like completely redid it. That's why a lot of like the new Captain America had all its reshoots.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the bad testing, it was the fact that he took a look at it and was like, no,
this is what we can do to fix it.
So he knows how to stir the shit. He's been doing it for quite some time. And I think that they need that. They need someone to be
who
like,
will be structured and telling them where they need to be. And
they need a babysitter because their movies outside of Marvel before and after have not been well received. I mean, that's the unfortunate. It has fans. Don't get me wrong.
Everything has fans, but
yeah, but up next. So after a bumpy road earlier this year. Maybe it was the end of last year.
It was the end of last year.
It was the end of last year. So Scream 7 is finally going to be reporting to be filming in Atlanta by the end of this year. What do you think about this? You think it's a good start date, or do you think that they still need a little bit more time, or they should have started earlier?
Honestly, I mean, who knows what the reason for starting that late is, but they were scheduled for a summer shoot. It seemed like they were very confident in the story that they were going to tell. But for whatever reason, they've decided to push it back. That could be for a number of reasons. That could be, contract agreements and
Superman's
stuff like
also filming in Atlanta too right now. Maybe they were like, let's
let the dust settle a little bit on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible. But I mean, I don't know. I'm excited for the movie. I hope whatever they're taking their time with and stuff is cooked to perfection. I think that the last 2 movies were kind of higher bars. I know that's a hot take for some people, but for us,
I think it is.
I think that they want to make sure that they're taking the time to find a way to segue from the stories that we've just been being told, that we're still kind of supposed to be being told right now, into whatever this next story is going to be.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask your opinion on Kevin Williamson directing?
I'm not stoked about it, but it's not. I would have been more comfortable if he just came back and was writing the script, or at least was writing and directing, because I think that they only bring back one person from the last 2 movies.
Yeah, I think it's Guy Busick is coming back.
Yeah, I know he is.
Which is a great thing for, there are some people out on the internet who are really, really big fans of one Stu Macher. And there was one person in the writing room during the radio silence era of Scream who is a very big Stuther, and it's Guy Busick. So, I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but like Matthew Lillard's been posting all these things saying I'll always be back, and I get that that's like his like tagline as that character in that movie, but like a Scream movie's going into production, and he's talking about all these exciting nostalgic projects he's doing Shaggy again, he's doing Five Nights at Freddy 2. I think he's gonna be in Scream 7.
Probably 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. I think he's gonna be in Scream 7.
Alright. And our final topic, Rennie Harlem accidentally leaked certain plot points for his new Strangers trilogy while doing some kind of reality show in Europe. And because of this, he is ordering reshoots now.
Guys, we did nothing but step up to the plate, and we swung as hard as we could for this trilogy.
Yeah. Basically, a lot of the reason was because they were adding 2 new strangers. It was going to be Witchface and Ghost Skull.
Which is just the worst form of derivative content in the entire world. But,
I also think somebody inside like took a look at the reception and was like, okay, what we did, we need to
find a way to
diverge a little bit.
Well, so I think a big thing that like I've seen like maybe a few comments and stuff like that on Twitter and stuff, but that isn't really being talked about is like I'm willing to bet that they're actually going back for these reshoots because most people called it in the first movie.
Probably, yeah.
There are so many people involved in this that there are now multiple new strangers being added to the equation, and I think everybody was getting the vibe from the first movie that like most people in that diner were kind of involved in what was going to happen, the mechanics.
How much you want to bet it was going to end up being like a cult?
I mean, that's kind of the vibe that I'm picking up now.
Because like they made like the town so like almost like cartoonish when it came to like, oh, this is like a Children of the Corn, but with adults.
Like Outlander. Like no, it was a very very strange. But I think that it's. I think it's going to be one of those things. Like, I think that they were starting to see, like, YouTubers talking about, like, theory videos, things like that. Like, Killjoy Jake, the first video that he put out after the movie came out, he had started talking about how he thought it was the couple at the diner and stuff. And that I've watched the movie now twice since it's been available to watch at home. And there is one issue with that concept, but when you actually pay attention to the strangers while they're moving throughout the house and stuff like that, it's them. I think that there are multiple people wearing each mask, I think.
Yeah, rotations.
Yeah. And that's how we get the scene where, what's his name, Ryan? Ryan is at the food truck and she's at the house and he's talking to the couple. But then the next time you see the strangers, once it's established that they're in the home and Ryan's back and stuff, there's something with the pinups posture that if you pay attention to the girl in the diner, the way that she's holding herself and carrying herself, that's the same actress.
Well, you notice too what they did in this one with the designs. They had Dollface and pinup. They have like they're in like beanies, so you don't see their hair.
Mm-hmm. So there's no proper indication as to who it is, which is why I think that they're just townsfolk taking shifts, which is ridiculous in theory. If that is the approach that they go, I hope that in practice it comes out better than it sounds, because I did like the first movie.
Yeah, me too. And if that is it, I honestly wouldn't mind, because it's so ridiculous if they executed it in like kind of like an over the top way, kind of like not like where it's like cringy to watch, but something that's like that's so ridiculous I can't help but enjoy it. You know, like where it's like not necessarily so bad that it's good, but just like oh okay, like kind of borderline campy, you know. So it's like okay, I can get behind this now. But I bet they were leaning towards like the whole town was like a cult.
Yeah, I mean there's just too much that like lines up with that idea. Like even like down to like the girl who takes them to the Airbnb and stuff. Like she's 1000% in on it. Yeah. The way that like most townsfolk were like staring at them in the diner and stuff. Like I think they accidentally kind of just let loose the fact that there is everybody that we saw in that diner scene is somehow gonna be,
Yeah.
the truck is visible in the diner scene and stuff like that. Like, so they're at least present. I don't know. I want to believe that these movies are gonna be good. I actually just saw something yesterday that jumped out at me. I was researching some of this for this video, and somebody posted a still from like some behind the scenes thing that they posted last year, and you see that they're in a trailer park, which I absolutely love. Throw that like little homage to the second movie. That way people can call this sequel a direct remake of that movie too.
Yeah.
While not being a direct remake to that movie. But
Taking continuity to a whole new level.
yeah. But I don't know. I'm hopeful that they'll, recalibrate and be able to come up with something that maybe makes people happier in the end, because obviously the first movie wasn't it. Yeah. We had fun with it,
yeah,
but I also,
it.
After rewatching it a couple times, I can see why people weren't so stoked on it. The things that I liked about it, I absolutely still like about it though.
Yeah. It's fun. It's one of those movies that's like, it's not great, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one is the only one where I legitimately feel like it was
that's cinema.
Yeah.
It's the only movie that that's the case for most horror franchises, guys, is you're going to get that first movie that you're like, wow, they did something special here. And then they're just going to turn out whatever generic sequel they can because they need to make money. And that's just the sad name of the game. Sometimes we get lucky and we get great sequels. Sometimes we get even luckier and we get better sequels than the original.
Yeah.
This wasn't one of those cases for a lot of people. For me, this isn't a movie that I would say is as good as the original, but I would say it's, at least so far, my favorite sequel. So I'm excited to see where they go next.
Me too. I'm sure whatever they're doing with the reshoots, I'm not saying it's gonna make it like a masterpiece, but maybe now that the first one's out, it had its time in the sun, they're looking, like you said, like at YouTubers and commenters, and they're like, okay, they're calling things, they didn't like this, why don't we go back, tweak some of the stuff in part 2 and part 3 and do this, and let's see where it goes. And this is if these even get to go to theaters. For all we know, between now and then, some streaming service may just acquire the rights to them.
I'm hopeful that that's not the case, but
yeah,
it does kind of feel like that's the direction that they're going to head in. The first movie comes out, and within 2 weeks, it's on Fandango at home, and
VOD.
So hopefully these movies do get their chance to speak for themselves
and become their own entity.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens.
Well, anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out. We just wanted to kind of talk about some different stuff today. If there's anything that you want us to kind of cover or, anything like that, go ahead and drop it down in the comments.
Yeah, feel free to let us know down in the comments below what kind of content you want to see from us. We told you guys when we first started this channel that being interactive with you guys was something that we were really, really passionate about, and that continues to be true. So please, by all means, if it's not just horror that you want us to talk about, that's awesome. We
plan on branching out into just movie news in general when we do these kinds of videos. So, we're going to talk about, superhero stuff. We'll talk about, just any whatever. But anyways, thanks again for hanging out with us, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Caress the like button.
Smack it a little bit.
Smack it.